1. I thought I would share my highlights of moments I have encountered as a disabled person and entitled parents. There are so many more I regularly come across, especially on public transport. 1. Bus encounter. On the bus, a mother marched over demanding, "You can stand, right? My child needs to sit," despite my walking stick resting beside me. 2. Regular run-in. My usual encounter with this one entitled dad awaits me on the tram. "No wheelchair today," he has said, when I have my crutches or a different mobility aid. "Must be a miracle," he has also said. 3. Food shopping delivery debacle, knocking on my door. My downstairs neighbor has moaned at me about the food shopping delivery van parked outside. She has said, "It's entitled brats like you hogging the spots." Good job I have a roommate who is calmer than me when it comes to explaining that it's needed for me. Also explaining how I get more freedom than, say, her doing my food shop for me. 4. Curiosity gone awry. I find myself fairly often approached by children encouraged by parents to ask, "What's wrong with you?" I will offer a vague response like I got hurt or something like that, which normally stops it. But then there's the parents insisting on knowing my medical history. 5. Misconstrued medication. On the bus, I reached for my medication only to be accused of a parent nearby of drug use. My heavens. 6. Tram standoff. Attempting to board the tram. I encountered a mother unwilling to collapse her foldable pram to accommodate my wheelchair. "There's no space," she insisted, ignoring my need for accessibility. 7. Mobility aid misunderstanding. A child will often approach me, eyeing my fidget toy with curiosity. Before I can react, a parent has scolded me for taunting her child with a toy. This has also happened with a parent saying I should share my headphones, which is mega weird. 8. Sweet surprise. Enjoying a quiet moment in a cafe, I took my medication, only to be confronted by a parent accusing me of selfishness. "You should share with the children," unaware my sweets were medication. 9. The disabled toilet. Go ahead, use the disabled toilet. I'm in no place to judge who and who doesn't need to use the disabled toilet. But please don't get snippy with me when I'm waiting on you to come out with your child. 10. My mobility aid isn't a toy. This is a weirdly common one, where a child will go to grab or touch my mobility aid, and I, out of instinct, pull it away, and the parent will tell me off because the child is curious. These things cost a lot of money. It isn't a toy, far from it. These instances are actually more common than you think, sadly. Don't get me wrong. I have zero issues with kids being curious about why I use a mobility aid. What's wrong with me and asking other questions? Kids are curious and I am happy to teach your kid, just ask me nicely. I find parents are often the worst when it comes to me and my disabilities. Then elderly people are typically the second worst. 2. Needed context. I am a 23-year-old woman. I am a service dog handler with a red tri Aussie. She's a very pretty dog and gains us a lot of attention, so I am very used to gently educating about why you shouldn't interrupt or distract service dogs. Typically, just a, "Hey, please don't distract service dogs," or even telling my dog, but more so just saying aloud, "Ignore it," does the trick. I have a heart condition, POTS for those that know it, that causes me to faint, and she alerts prior to fainting that I don't fall and get injured, or at worst, die. This day, while walking around, I hear cooing and cawing from somewhere nearby. Loud enough to be from a good distance and clearly an adult voice. Out of curiosity, I look around and see a woman, not much older than myself, with a small child no older than 3 in a shopping cart, pointing out my dog. I smiled at them, seeing the kid and not minding the lady at that point. Usually parents point us out to teach their kids about service dogs or to call my dog pretty. I did need to go down the aisle they were in, but figured it wouldn't be an issue. As soon as I walked closer, the mom started raising her voice while still baby-talking her kid, saying things like, "Ooh, look at the puppy coming closer," and "Isn't that puppy so cute?" Nothing bad. but she was incredibly loud for being right next to me at this point, and her kid wasn't looking. This displeased the mom, so she started to move her cart to force her kid to look at my dog, and I spoke up because she was now blocking where I was trying to go. "Please don't block my path, I'm just trying to shop like anyone else." This lady was not happy being told this. Without skipping a beat, her face had turned deep red, and she was screaming at the top of her lungs at me in the store.
"I'm sorry, I just wanted my kid to admire the pretty puppy."
And I'll admit, this frazzled me. I wasn't expecting her to turn so angry so quickly, especially since I thought I had been relatively nice in explaining why I didn't want her to move her cart, just for her kid to see my dog. I responded along the lines of, "You're more than allowed to look, just please don't block us from shopping. And it's not good to teach kids to point and yell at service dogs, it can distract them from their jobs. If she misses an alert, I could get really hurt." And I get yet another mind-blowing response, the reason I'm making this post. The lady screamed back, now with people because we were quite close to the front of the store.
"We have eyes. My daughter and I are allowed to look at your dog. If you disabled people are so bothered by being stared at, don't come out in public!"
I was so shocked at first. I didn't even know how to respond. I eventually just stared at her for a second silently before saying, "Wow. I'm so glad people like you are raising kids." Because remember, this happened in front of her small child. I honestly wanted to avoid any more confrontation, so I turned to rush to the checkout, while the mom was busy screaming something else that I ignored. Luckily, she didn't follow, and I shared looks of what even was that with other people who had seen her outburst. Luckily, my dog was unfazed. Ruff. I gave her extra treats once we left the store, just to reward her for being such a good girl. 3. Now that the shock of everything has begun to wear off, I feel like this might be the best thing that has ever happened to me. I feel like I spent years whenever there was an explosion thinking, everyone has bad days, or how I could have contributed to it. I'm realizing that I am a super rationalizer when it came to certain things, and excused truly egregious behavior. The other night I wrote down a few just-no things that have truly hurt me, and that I pushed aside because I thought, she has a successful career, and is not totally nuts all the time. Reading it brought tears to my eyes, and I think a lot of the things I consider important, like warmth and connection, are because of these experiences. Some of these things include my mother getting blackout drunk at a 4th of July concert when I was in college and telling me I will never be a good mother when I told her she was making me uncomfortable. She was very drunk and getting aggressive. Drinking 2 bottles of wine when my grandmother died and immediately telling the family at the house, "I'm a bitch," when I tried to take away the 2nd bottle of wine. Already half gone. She physically pushed me. When I locked the door to my bedroom, she began kicking it in. She said she has always hated me and my grandpa, who lost his wife an hour before. Had to restrain her. Telling me I'm an idiot for choosing to like Dad more. As a child, she would come home and go straight to her bedroom and lock the door. For years and almost every day. The schools would get in touch with my father and never my mother. I do not recall her ever asking how my day went or asking what was going on with school. I spent so much more time with my father. I remember when my father allowed me to drive for the first time in a small town when I was 10, down a quiet street for a block. I could not wait to tell my mom. She would not stop laughing when I told her and said, "Who cares? It's not like it's a major city." I remember when I was having a tantrum, as in under the age of 5. We were alone in the apartment, and she went into her bedroom, locked the door, and did not come out until morning. Coming home and yelling at me in high school because a colleague of hers said my short hair made me look like a guy. Abandoning me when I'm 9 months pregnant on my birthday, because she refused to speak to my son because there was nothing to say and I was forcing her to speak to him just to be mean. With all of this said, I have blocked her phone number and email and feel very at peace with the decision. We are still figuring out what birth help and hospital situation will look like, but the silver lining is I'm glad this happened before number 2 arrived. Respectfully. I am not interested in diagnoses. I am ambivalent about this strange few who victim-blamed when I shared this story earlier. No one deserves to be treated in any way described, especially at 9 months pregnant. And it's ludicrous to assume that the wildly pregnant person recently out of hospital for a potential stroke is the host in this situation, and my mother is the guest in dire need. When my grandmother was dying, I was at her house to work and follow my grandmother's rules. If you have a similar story, or kind supportive words, it always means the world to read. I have so many responses saved on my phone that have given me strength these last several days, so thank you. I can say calmly and confidently, I am so glad to have my darling husband and little one. They are just sunny, wonderful people, and I just love my little family. That said, has anyone gone completely no contact with one parent but remained in touch with the other, still married? If so, how did that work for you? Is it tough for me to imagine that working? I have not been in touch with my father, but the prospect of not speaking with him is actually more painful than what happened to me. Cheers, 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 and thank you for listening and for your support. 4. We are in a weird moment in our lives with my wife's family, sporadically with my mother-in-law and her sister, Renata, 22, female. Some details have been changed, though. Also, her dad is not in their lives. A little bit of background. I am a 30-year-old man. I've been with my wife, 28 years old, for around 5 years, and we have a 3-year-old kid who we love like nothing in this world. When we started dating, she was living with her mom, who always controlled her entire life. She couldn't have a personal email. She had to receive and open all her mail and a lot more BS. She always reminded her how stupid she is and that she needs to get a man with money because she is incompetent and can't make money. My wife tried to go to college, but mother-in-law didn't want to help her pay for it because she would fail. Meanwhile, her sister got her college paid for without ever working and graduated and makes bank. My wife lived with this treatment thinking this is normal and didn't see anything wrong with it until she met me. No one in her family ever said anything or advocated for my wife. No one in that family had the balls to do it, just to avoid problems because they are a family and families stick together. Hate that mentality. So I came to the picture and started to get mad when we couldn't go places because of her mom treating my wife like a middle school girl. She can't go out without doing the dishes, taking the dogs out, cooking and cleaning after it. You know, the Cinderella vibes while she watches TV with Renata. She was always condescending to her, and the narcissistic, selfish attitude just drained my wife's self-esteem. It is always first her, second the dogs, third her boyfriend. She didn't go to my wife's birthdays because she had plans with him, and she also didn't go to the wedding. Go figure. Fourth, Renata, and lastly, my wife, only when she had our kid, who she never wanted to babysit because she is tired and doesn't want to work when she is out of work. She'd call my kid work. Plus, she always put things on her head like, call my boyfriend Grandpa, which annoyed us, and we cut that right away. They were dating for a couple of months at that time, so I got fed up and talked to my wife that we need to distance ourselves. I just wanted to go no contact, but it's her family and she didn't want that, which I understand. Fast forward to a few days. They had an argument on the phone where mother-in-law was, again, treating her like she doesn't know what she's talking about and being disrespectful and condescending to her. So she hangs up on her mid-sentence. I'm glad because I've been telling her to not let her treat her like that, since respect is earned and not given just because she is her mom. This made my mother-in-law super mad. She called her and me like 20 times, then her sister did the same and texting, saying to apologize to her mom. She is a mama's girl and a copy of her mother. Mother-in-law texted lots of BS, the last one being, I am done. To which my wife says, what she always says to that, I told her then we are done too for real this time. She needs some kind of consequences because she always says stuff to enforce her narrative and feel like she had the control. Because of this discussion, literally yesterday, mother-in-law texted my wife, they haven't spoken since the argument, not even to check on her grandchild, asking her for the money my wife owes her. Well, I just found out that years ago, my wife couldn't pay her cell phone bill, and mother-in-law helped her by paying it. When my wife got some money, she tried to pay her back, but mother-in-law said no for some reason. But she kept paying the phone. It was in mother-in-law's name, so my wife told her to just cancel the line. She didn't. Then, like a year later, she asked her out of the blue to pay her back all the help. And she has been paying that help since without me knowing because she didn't want me to get more stress and screw up my anxiety with the situation. I took her out of mother-in-law's account a while ago, but she's been paying her mom for like 2 years now. And mother-in-law says she owes her something like $900. I am livid. This is why she kept the line up and didn't want the money. How in the hell can a mother ask for money she used for helping her own daughter? How are you so entitled and selfish to write down every penny she used on my wife so that she could have ammo to go after her when she needs money? So I grabbed the money that her boyfriend gave us for the wedding, $1,000, which I never used because I don't like to get money from others, and for some reason always had a bad feeling about this money. I'm going to give it to her and tell her to call the debt paid and to screw off with her BS, and we will start distancing from her even more, including not seeing her grandchild. No biggie for her, I assume, until she grows up. I know we are not obligated to give any money since everything was in her name and linked to her bank account, but I don't want to give her any more reason to stay around with her BS. Am I overreacting? Does everything I said make sense? Any suggestions would be appreciated. Update. First of all, thank you for all your opinions on the original post. This literally opened my wife's eyes and made me feel just a little bit better knowing that I wasn't overreacting. You guys have no idea how my anxiety exploded during the last couple of days. Just thinking about it made me hyperventilate and stress out for some reason. Well, after reading all this and having a real talk with my wife, we determined to ask for all the phone bills my wife owes her, and that we won't be participating in family gatherings until she grows up and starts acting like a mom and grandmother. After this, she went silent, but of course Renata texted us, asking us why we are acting like this. We decided not to answer anything. And since some family members started asking why we didn't go to the last family reunion, we just said, to the few good ones, that we are working on some personal issues with mother-in-law. These family members, the only ones that went to our wedding, understand and leave us alone. The rest, they will gossip, and I just wipe my butt with their comments. If I ever get a response for the bills and decide on paying any amount, we will follow the suggestions about sending everything on certified mail, with return receipt. I also asked a friend from work and legal to prepare a document to send first. He mentioned that we can talk with the bank if we want to force her to sign basically and get a stopped or frozen check for a fee that she can only cash when we let the bank know. After getting the document sent back signed, I haven't heard of this before, but I will talk to the bank if she ever responds. Again, thank you for all your suggestions and support. It really meant a lot to us. 5. My mother-in-law is just yes 95% of the time. My son and her adore each other, and as she is the only family near us, and he is destined to be an only child through infertility, she is effectively the only family relationship he will have outside his parents. She also picks him up from school the majority of the time, and I quite simply can't afford alternative childcare arrangements. So any suggestions about reducing her contact with him will not be helpful. So, I come from the school of thought that you eat until you have enough and then stop. Food is thrown away, so you judge the amount of food you want to eat in advance. I studied safety at university and hold a lot of respect for the body's way of managing food intake, provided we are raised to listen to its signals. She was born at the end of the war and grew up through rationing. She was raised to eat everything put in front of you, and if extra food was sourced, it was a treat. So you ate till bursting, and every scrap is safe to eat another day. On to my son. He is a picky eater, and the most obstinate individual you will ever come across. On a different theme, both his dad and I knew that he needed a week at soft play. Ask him directly, and he says he is too busy playing. I said we had no spare clothes, so if he has an accident, we have to go straight home, and he immediately concedes he needs to go to the toilet. I know if I try to force him to eat, he will refuse, and it will turn into a power struggle. In short, we don't give orders over anything but explain why things need to be done a certain way, and when he sees the logic of it, he is usually compliant. With food, I make sure there is food that he likes available and praise him when he eats well. He responds fantastically to praise. I fully accept that there are other ways to do things which may be better, but this is the approach my husband and I have agreed on, as it works best with our son. And the most important thing, as parents, is to be consistent and unified in our approaches. She knows my approach, and I should point out she has commented in the past that she wishes she could say no to food, because she spent the 20-plus years I have known her yo-yo dieting. Practically, the second food appears, mother-in-law comments on how much my son should eat. One time I'm making him something, and before I had even served it up, she told him to eat it all. I normally ignore her, but that day I told him to eat until he was full and stop. Thank you for making it this far. So husband and I had directly approached her about not making an issue of what he eats. Only yesterday she made a comment at home, and I asked her not to, and hubby backed me up. Today, hubby and I were both off work, so we all picked up son from school and went to the soft play center. On the way, he ate from a lunchbox of goodies his dad made him. We decided to order drinks and a treat, and chose not to order anything for me. My son's favorite thing at this place is an orange cake, but it only comes in adult portion sizes. He has a couple of mouthfuls and is so excited about playing he gets up to play. She shouts at him to eat. I mention that we don't have much time before it closes, so if he runs off to play, he won't get the chance to come back and eat. After he is gone, I asked her to follow my lead about food. Well, you would have thought I had told her she wasn't fit to be a parent, which she has told me in the past. She didn't say a word, but then she didn't say anything to me until we got home. Sorry, not sorry, you don't listen to me, and I have to explain to in the past that I expect my decisions as a parent to be respected because 1, I am the main caregiver, so I get the most say in how things are handled. And 2, as the person who spends the most time with him, I know what works and what doesn't. Thanks for listening, and letting me get this off my chest. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to The Impractical Proudness of Parents, Ipop, episode 127. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Before you go, please do hit the like button, thank you kindly. And if you would like to get early access to these videos, then there's 2 ways you can do that. 1, become a moderator, which you can't because I don't need any more, or you can join me on my Patreon page, which is linked in the description, and support me there for as little as $1 a month. Or more if you like, but $1 would get you started, and that gets you all the videos on a Monday. You'll also find a link in the description to the Hellfreezer Teespring store, and if you'd like to join the Hellfreezer Discord, there's a link there too to that if you'd like. And if you really enjoyed today's video and you'd like to leave a tip, then you can do that by clicking on the heart with a $sign. I'm almost done, I promise. The heart with a $sign underneath the video, and select the tip of your choice. Okay, there we go. No other business today, so let's move right along to Hellfreezer's question of the day. And today's question is, have you ever changed your mind about a foodstuff? That's an easy one for me to answer. There's a few, actually. I never used to like Brussels sprouts, until one day I decided, on a whim I guess, just to buy a bag and try roasting them, and turns out I like them. So I've used them quite frequently. The farting is the only problem. And another thing is, I guess it's rose-flavored things. It turns out I really enjoy them as an adult. Your taste buds change. And I very much like rose-flavored drinks, and occasionally rose-flavored sweets. So I'm actually on a mission now to try and find a Turkish delight I also enjoy. Haven't had much luck so far, but I hope I will find one, because I never used to like that when I was a kid. Why don't you let me know what some of your answers are in a comment below. And before we go, let's have the answer of the day from a previous video. And I believe the question for this one was, do you like to complete your goals, or is the journey the point for you? I'm more of a enjoy the journey, but I like to get things finished, otherwise there's no point. And today's answer is from our old friend Deeper Things. Depends on the project. I have a few projects that I shall never in one lifetime see completed, for which the journey must suffice. But the satisfaction in smaller scoped efforts will always be found in the successful completion of the project. Well put, and thank you for your answer, Deeper Things. Okay, and with that, I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.